hope this is working. I've never done live before, so please apologies in advance. Yeah, so it's January, and I thought we would do a little live with the amazing Zana Morris, who is the fountain of knowledge, and she's the founder of Strong Nutrients, and I have been taking Strong Nutrients since October now, and I found it's honestly absolutely amazing. So let me see if Zana can join us. Hi guys. Oh, there you go. Zana's joined. Fingers crossed. Hi everyone. Are we on? Hello.
Hello. That was remarkably simple.
I know. We always have some connection problems for this time. So...
Don't say anything. Just keep going.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's always an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And like I said before, you are the absolute fountain of knowledge. So yeah, hello.
Hello.
So shall we talk about you and Strong Nutrients, because I think it's so interesting how you started. You know, because you started it for yourself first, haven't you?
Well, I started it because I was, well, quite frankly, the originally with Strong Nutrients, it was because there were certain products that I was having difficulty sort of locating for clients. And I had a business partner at the time who was very keen on amalgam.
Hold on. Are we here? Can we hear anything? Oh no, sorry. Let's start that again maybe. Can you hear me, Zana? There's first miss. Oh, there we go. Hold on. Let's just see. Fingers crossed. Yes.
I told you not to say anything.
I know.
So anyway, we'll continue as if we weren't interrupted. Apologies about that. I'm not sure if that was on my side, but anyway, I'm back. But anyway, the long and the short really is there were certain supplements I found made a massive difference to clients. I was training, I had the gyms, I was training clients, and there were certain protein supplements, other vitamins, minerals that I really felt made a difference. My background is in nutrition. It was in running health stores. So I was very keen to ensure that when you're working with clients in the gyms and so on, that you're filling in all the gaps. You're doing the nutrition as well, you're doing the supplements as well. So originally it was really for that, very much with the clients in mind. There were the supplements I used and there were supplements I was recommending to most of my clients. So it was very much built around that. And probably the primary product it was built around was the protein, because there's a particular type of protein that I found worked the absolute best with clients. And it wasn't that easy to get in those days. It's marginally easier to get now. Funnily enough, it's still not the most popular one out there, but it was almost impossible to get in those days.
Wow.
And that's why really we kicked off the brand, as I said, because my business partner at the time who did branding really came up with the concept of getting these type of supplements across, because again at the time, and it was about 12 years ago, you had supplements divided into two brackets. It was either the real heavy black massive containers for boys in gyms, or it was the other side where you kind of had this array of supplements and names that you needed a science degree to kind of know which one you should be taking. And you were kind of guessing as such. And the idea was to bring it into the middle, because some of the supplements that those lads in the gyms were taking were useful to everybody, probably even more useful for women training than even the men, quite frankly. And equally, there's some vitamins and minerals that just were getting lost in this whole noise, if you like, of just long pots. And people, when they were buying supplements, and I was guilty of this too, you'd have them in the cupboard and you'd almost be hiding them from people out of embarrassment.
But you
and
don't
we
know
would
what to
bring them.
choose as well. You
It,
don't know which one. There's so many of them.
Yes, yes. So it was really, can we bring this a bit more into, it was almost to bring it into really properly into the health and almost beauty industry, dare I say, because again, now that's kind of common sense. But as little as 10, 12 years ago, it still wasn't being necessarily linked up in the same way that we do organically now. And it was really to do that. So it was to pull it all together and have people, quite frankly, at the time, this sounds kind of a bit silly now, but at the time it was, I remember saying to clients, to let them feel proud to have them sitting on their countertop so they remember to take them.
Yes, proud owner here.
I love it. I love
So
it.
why is protein so important for us? Because like everyone talks about, supplements and stuff and healthy eating, but why is protein so important?
Right. Let's run through this very quick little sort of science, home science probably lesson. We've got fats, we've got carbohydrates, we've got protein. They're the three macronutrients, and they are not one and the same in any shape or form. In other words, fats don't do what carbohydrates do, and carbohydrates don't do what protein does. So the protein, when we eat protein, so we're talking about fish or meat, we're talking about lentils, we're talking about the protein in cheese. When we eat protein, the body breaks it down into amino acids and sugars. So believe it or not, there's naturally occurring sugars in pretty much all protein that you eat. But there's not a lot, just a little. Those amino acids are the building blocks of you. Everything in you, from toenails right through to the hair, kind of your heart, everything in between, lungs, you name it, not just your muscle, your collagen, all of that, eyes, it's protein. Hormones need those amino acids. So everything is that those amino acids are the only things that build those. And really annoyingly with age, particularly once we pass the age of 30, so it's not that old,
No,
our
not at all.
bodies, it's not old at all, our bodies are breaking down with time. They're not naturally building up. So we sort of move into what they call a catabolic state. And some of the estimates, they say we lose half a pound of muscle a year from the age of 30. But in reality, what happens is we probably lose yet less when we're 31, 32. But by the time we hit 60, we're probably losing a pound or two of muscle a year. So it starts accelerating as we get older. And that's your lean body mass, really. We're talking about bone density. We're talking about, as I said, collagen from the skin, as well as sort of muscle from arms and legs. So the only food that replenishes that, it's not exercise, it's protein. It's the amino acids. That's the only thing that replenishes it. So in a weird way, it's probably the main anti-aging macronutrient. Never mind for longevity and strength and everything else. But it's imperative. It really is imperative.
So this is the bad boy.
Protein shakes. So when you go for protein shakes, so this is the advantage. Now this is the casein. So when I mentioned earlier that there's a protein shake that I really liked. So the most popular one at the time we set up this brand was whey protein. You get whey everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Now we get a lot more vegan proteins, pea proteins, rice proteins, hemp proteins, and so on and so forth. Casein I love, and I've always loved it for that. That's that one exactly, and I love it for this. Well, a few reasons actually, and let me run through them super fast. Casein is the same protein you get in cottage cheese. So it really is. If you said to me which is better, cottage cheese or the protein shake, they're both very good because it's both casein protein, quite frankly. So do you need to run out and get a protein shake? No, not necessarily, but let me give you the benefits of casein protein and perhaps why you might consider them a shake. Casein is also very slow release, which means it breaks down super slowly. Now, I said a few minutes ago that protein breaks into amino acids and sugars. So when protein breaks down nice and slowly, those sugars, when they break down, drip feed into the bloodstream, which means there's no big insulin rise. And when you're trying to get into shape, particularly to lose belly fat or any fat around the middle, what you want to do more than anything else in the world is stabilize that insulin. Keep it nice and steady, and that gets rid of belly fat. If the insulin's going up and down, it's very hard to get rid of belly fat.
It is.
So when it is.
Especially with older age, and I mean, not that I'm really old. I don't class myself as old, but also stress. It's like it releases this thing, and it all goes into your belly fat.
Oh, it does. No, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. I mean, on that very briefly, the effect of cortisol, which is one of the stress hormones, part of its job, this is really interesting actually, this is where the protein comes in. Part of the job of that cortisol is to attack muscle stores, to release the sugars out of the muscle, because remember there's sugar connected with those amino acids in the protein. That sugar goes into your bloodstream, and now your body's releasing insulin to get the sugars out of the bloodstream. So you can gain belly fat from stress, very much so. Yes.
I've
100%.
definitely noticed that.
100%. So when you get a slow release protein, that helps stabilize that insulin, which also means you stay fuller for longer and you don't have the same cravings. It really holds down.
Yes. So, like, I've noticed the more protein that I eat, the less hungry I feel. And again, it's not about losing weight, and it's just about, for me, it's about feeling healthy and feeling stronger. And yeah, the I think the more protein, the more good stuff I put into my body, I feel better and I feel fuller, and I snack less, because I was a bad snacker.
Yes.
Cracker here, cracker there, or pack of crisps, and I got to a point in the last few weeks, especially, that I don't feel the need to snack.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely helping.
That's where, generally speaking, protein, whether in the form of shakes or protein foods, because as we said, we're talking about fish, meat, cheese, cottage cheese, all that kind of stuff, eggs, all of that. What I find works incredibly well with clients is when you can increase, particularly in the evening, that protein intake. It seems to satisfy and stabilize, and you don't want to snack, you don't feel like it. No. But you're not cutting back on food per se. No. You're not going on the diet where you have to cut back on everything.
No point is there, because I think life is for living, and it's all about balance. That's why I love the way you sort of talk about food and healthy eating, because it's all about balance. Yes, we can have milk. Yes, we can have. We don't need to cut all those things that we enjoy and sugar and stuff. But if we have it in a balanced way, then yeah, why not?
And exactly, and it is to get that balance right. It really is. And the huge advantage of getting the protein in is it gently knocks the other things out without you having to mentally try really hard to do so.
Yes.
And it really does sustain. It really does sustain. It makes a big, big difference. And looping back to two things we've mentioned already. One, that stress thing where that cortisol gets released. If you're under a lot of stress, you can be losing that lean body mass faster. So it's not just age that does it for everyone. That really is what aging is, as we gradually break down. Very depressing, but it is the case for everybody. For everybody. Just in varying degrees of speed, if you like. But stress accelerates that process. As does, and this is why calorie counting really is, I think, problematic. I mean, it's okay every now and again to look at things from, am I eating too much? Obviously, common sense can come into play. But when it comes to getting into shape, it's usually not the issue. If you go on a really low-calorie diet, that also accelerates the loss of lean body mass, of muscle, and so on and so forth, which is the last thing you want. You want to hold that. And as you said, rightfully so, it's not so much about weight loss, but it is about health and potentially fat loss, particularly around the tummy, because okay, a little bit isn't going to do anyone any harm, but if there is then it becomes relative. You just want to get into shape. But if there's a bit too much of fat around the tummy, it's not healthy. It's very different to fat on the hips, and anything around the tummy in terms of weight is insulin related. So you really are looking at stabilizing that insulin and upping the protein, and naturally then reducing the carbohydrates, and more the sugars really, but possibly carbohydrates too, can have a huge impact on that. Huge.
So how much protein do we need, as I know it depends on weight and stuff, but how much do we, what's the intake?
It's a brilliant question, this, and I sort of smile when I get asked it. It's loosely between about 1.2 up to, now I would be absolutely stunned and super impressed if anyone listening gets the up to bit, up to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Now let me put this in perspective. So if you weigh 70 kilos, for example, you're looking at having 105 grams of protein,
which is a lot, isn't it?
Well, it's a lot when you really consider what we're talking about here. We're not talking about the protein food, we're talking about the actual protein.
Yeah.
So like a fillet steak would have 25 grams of protein per 100 grams.
So this is actually 27, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends on the flavor, but it's between 24 up to 28, depending on the flavor, grams. 27 grams in that one. Which flavor have we got there? That's
Vanilla.
the vanilla, isn't it?
The best
Yes,
one.
that's the vanilla. Yes. So that's the 27 grams, exactly. So 27 grams per 100 grams. So it's more than your 100 grams of fillet steak. Exactly. And that's where the shakes come in. They're very handy to up the protein. So I'm going to very, very quickly do a kind of a brief breakdown of a day in terms of protein. An egg has about 7 grams of
I
protein.
didn't know that. After you've told me, I was like, and I thought, oh, just one egg or two, and I thought I'll be sorted for the day for my protein intake. But it's 7 grams. It's nothing, is it?
It's not when you look at your if you weigh 70 kilos, for example, you're trying to get 105.
Yes.
7 grams isn't very far, and most people you just have about 2 eggs in a go, which would be your 14 grams.
Yeah.
But that's still not going to cut it. And then in the evening, most people kind of would have their fish or meat. They'd usually have maybe about 150 grams of it. So depending on which fish or meat, that would be anything from, well, what we're looking at, 20, 35, that would be somewhere between 30 and 45 grams of protein. So depending on which, whether it's a chicken or whether it's a cod or a, salmon or whatever. So there's between 20 to 25 grams of protein per 100 grams of most fish or meat. That's just as a general overview. So yes, so really that's where the protein shakes come in their own. Now, by the way, I was talking about the 70 kilo, and if we say we're going, so that's just to be clear for anyone who's doing the maths and trying to figure out where I'm getting my maths from. I said we're ideally supposed to get between 1.2 grams up to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. I just jumped into a medium version there of that at 1.5, just for anyone listening. 1.2 sustains people quite nicely if you're not under a lot of stress and you're not doing excessive amounts of training.
Yeah.
Then you want to be pushing towards the 2.
Then more. Wow. Yeah.
Yes.
So, but also, so let's say if I can't do 2 shakes in one go, because there's a limit of what can body absorb in one time, isn't
That's
it?
a really good, very good question. Now, I don't want to go into this too much because this is where it gets quite fun in terms of the science, but let me go into it a little bit. There's 2 lines of thought, or 2 kind of things to look at in this. There's probably more, but I'm simplifying this into 2.
Please do.
Depending on your goals, if you want to get into really good shape and keep your energy levels up, what you do not want to do first thing in the morning, this is important, and if you get this makes a big difference to all of my clients when it comes to shape and energy. What you do not want to do first thing in the morning is spike your insulin, because otherwise you get sleepy, and as we've said, that can encourage the belly fat, not reduce it. So you want your first meal of the day to be a low insulin producing, if you like, meal. So you don't want too much protein.
Right.
If you took 2 scoops of protein in the morning for your breakfast, you probably want to go to bed afterwards. Right. The body deals in the morning. Our hormones are different in the morning to what they are in the evening. They change and fluctuate as the day goes on. Our cortisol levels are naturally higher in the morning, which in turn could mean your insulin levels are naturally higher. So you're trying to keep everything steady in the morning. Weirdly, your body deals with it very differently in the evening. Mm-hmm. So hence you can have a big protein meal in the evening and you don't always feel like falling asleep. But if you did that in the morning for breakfast, you would feel like going back to bed.
Yeah.
So back to your question, could you have 2 scoops in a go? You could if you did it in the evening.
Right. Okay.
But if it's no use to you if you did it in the morning.
Yeah.
It would work much better in the evening. So that's the main point. And the second point, just to amuse anyone who's really, really looking at this from a muscle or kind of firming and toning and strengthening point of view, and that's your real goal. If you're doing a lot of training and you really feel, God, I really do need to recover that lean body mass. If you add a small amount, I'm jumping into science lessons here, insulin is very helpful as well. All these hormones are good and bad for things, if you know what I mean, there's benefits. So insulin may be annoying because it can encourage belly fat, but in small amounts, it's very useful because it helps shuttle, it literally helps carry the protein into the muscle for you. Mm-hmm. So if you have a protein shake, say with a banana in it, you'll absorb more protein. So when you're saying if you take too much, will you absorb it? Well, actually, there's ways to help your body utilize it. Yeah. So it's just not not waste.
Yeah.
So in other words, throw a banana into the protein shake, get a little bit of
Yeah.
natural sugars, you'll absorb a bit more.
Right. So I've started running last year. I'm not a runner. I can't say that I love it, and I definitely don't call myself a runner still. But I like it. It gets me going and clears my mind. So do I then? And I found actually after using the protein shakes, your protein shakes, it did help me go for a bit longer, faster. And so do I do it after the run or before?
Well, there's two things in what you've mentioned there. The first is the fact you could go for longer as such, because please, for anyone listening, bear in mind, all exercise actually helps break down your muscle.
Yeah.
People think if I train, I get stronger. You don't. If you train, initially you get weaker, and then your body gets all those amino acids from the protein and builds the muscle back up. So it responds to the stress, if you like, to get stronger. But if you don't get the protein in there, you won't get stronger.
Yeah. So
You need to you've got to get that protein in response to that exercise. It's the protein that's firming you up. The exercise is like a catalyst that causes the body to take up the protein. As to where you should have it around the actual exercise itself, I would think will depend on how much and what type of exercise you're doing. So if you're doing a long intensive session, something over 40 minutes, so it's going 45 minutes an hour into 2 hours. So if it's a long run, the equivalent of maybe a long football match or a long tennis match, I would aim to get the protein in either a little bit before, certainly afterwards, and if there's a gap in between, you could possibly even have a small amount in the middle. You could. Now, I don't normally recommend this to my clients, but with my clients most of the time, in terms of training, I'm encouraging them to do short, intensive bursts of training. So we're keeping it under that 40 minutes, more into the 30-minute bracket, and then that changes what you do next.
Yeah.
So, and quite frankly, bear in mind, you don't have to take it around the training session. You know, you could be training every day and just having that extra protein in the evening, because it's not like something that flushes in and flushes out.
Yeah.
Your body's recovering while you sleep. One of the best times to take it is before bed.
I do
Because
actually.
yes.
Yeah. And the texture, I've never tasted anything like that before. And I tried a few protein shakes before, and they're just meh. They're just like, I don't enjoy them. Let's face it. This one, when I first tried it, I was like, oh my goodness, what is it? And it was like a dessert. I treat it. I make it. I have mine with milk, full fat milk girl here. So that's my dairy intake, and I treat it as a dessert. I have it thicker, and just eat it with a spoon, and it's the best thing ever. I don't like desserts. I don't usually. I'm a starter girl.
Yes.
Usually. So this is after a meal in the evening. This is my dessert, and it's amazing.
I think it's a perfect time to take it. I think it's a perfect time. People tend to take it, and that would be often the way I would have taken it now, exactly like that, as a dessert, and possibly have it a bit thicker. You can have it as a breakfast if people are listening and they're thinking of doing it. You can have it as a breakfast, like as a small breakfast, or at 4 o'clock if you feel you get a dip. Then can be a very good time to take it as well. But it doesn't have to be, as we're saying, just around the exercise. You don't have to take it near the exercise at all, because at the end of the day, it's exactly that. Your body's using that protein. It's not necessarily an immediate response to the exercise. It's going to be using it generally. Your body recovers from intense training sessions. It can take good, oh my gosh. When I first was working in terms of studying, if you like, the weight training side of things, I was told if you do really intense weight training session, you should give your body a whole week to recover that body part if you're doing it properly.
But when you think about it, when I go for a run or have intense training at home, because I've started doing that because I don't like to running in the night.
Yes.
So in the days are so short at the moment. So I do workout in the evenings, and I can't do the workout the next day because, quite frankly, I can't walk the next day.
Yeah, and you shouldn't be. You should give yourself, I think, at least 48 hours if depending on how you're training, to let those muscles recover. So, and in that recovery time, that's when the body's also
Yes.
recovering it, quite frankly, literally recovering
Yeah.
it. It's
Yeah.
rebuilding it back again. And we do most of that recovery at night when we sleep.
So
Um,
this leads to my next question, actually, because everyone's talking about the fasting now. It's become so popular. So please,
as
uh, I see it on Instagram all the time. It's, in and out fasting, fasting, fasting. So what is it? Because I have started doing it a little bit. I don't follow it, religiously, but when I can, and it also depends on how I feel during my cycles. Well, that's important as well. So what is it, and why is it good for us?
So we're talking here about that intermittent fasting where it's 16/8 kind
Yes,
of concept. Yeah.
yes.
Um, because obviously there's longer fasting. In my early days as a nutritionist, oh my gosh, we used to do long fasts, like
And
not
then
just
there
a
was
day
five
fast,
to two,
3-day
wasn't there?
fasts. Yeah,
Yes,
we used to do all
yes,
of them now.
yes.
In the case of what's been spoken about now, because as if we think about it, everyone will know there's lots of reasons for fasting, and some of them are related to almost a meditative state rather than anything else. But in terms of the intermittent fasting, there's three reasons I would recommend clients do it. I don't recommend all clients do it. It can be, dependent a little on background and what you're trying to achieve and what the issues or challenges are. But there's three good reasons when I would encourage a client to do it, as in 3 times. It is very helpful for stabilizing blood sugar levels, which translated then means it becomes easier to lose belly fat, particularly because the insulin levels that insulin level stabilizes, and also then means as a direct result of that energy levels can be more steady. Equally, apparently, once you get to round about the 14th hour into the 16th hour, so hour 14, hour 15, 16. So in English, if you stop eating at 7 in the evening, you're looking at eating the following day at around 11. I think I've got that right.
Yes.
So the last 2 hours of it, the body's doing a conversion. And by a conversion of the fat, there's various types of fat. There's a white fat, which is useless. It just sits there, does nothing on us. And there's a brown fat, which is quite an active fat that the body can utilize very fast for energy, for fuel. And in those last 2 hours, the body's converting that stubborn, useless white fat into a very useful form of fat. And that then, in my experience working with clients, it's quite noticeable, helps sustain you through the day. So suddenly I've had clients who, oh my gosh, they need to have those extra little snacks, extra little meals, otherwise their energy dips, they get lightheaded. Suddenly the same clients, when we train them into fasting, now we don't do it in one hit, but once we get them doing this regularly, they can suddenly have gaps between meals, no issue whatsoever. And when they have that gap, the beauty of it is if they fat to lose, I mean, gosh, have you ever, everybody will know someone, if it's not yourself, who could stop eating and fat just does not budge.
Especially at later
When
age as well.
yeah, well, yeah. And with this, when you training that fat into that brown fat, it means when you have that gap between the meals, your body doesn't go, God, I need more sugar now, quick, feed me. It goes, oh, I've got this store of energy over here, and it launches into it. So you're able to lose fat and your energy stays lovely and steady. And I think the fasting over time really helps that. So you've better energy, you're able to lose belly fat much easier. It has then a knock-on impact for a lot of people with mood, which I think is kind of all related, quite frankly. And for a lot of people, and I think this bit's common sense, because your whole digestive system gets a proper rest that it should do, it can really have a great impact to prevent bloatedness.
Well, I was just going to say, so when I started talking to you, I was suffering with massive bloatness. I mean, that was my main concern. I got bloated so easily. I've cut out, various things like sourdough, not,
The
the bread,
wheat,
but
yes,
the
yeah.
wheat, yes. So I eat sourdough now. But the bloating after taking the protein, after the fasting and another product that I'm going to talk about in a minute, it's gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
And I just, honestly, I've lived with this for years, and only in the last few months I've, I've sorted it. And you also mentioned energy. So I used to drink 4 coffees a day, and
Impressive.
I know it's a skill, and they're not they are strong coffees. and now I'm 1 to 2. So yesterday I had one in the morning. Well, after I've started my day sort of around maybe 11, 12 o'clock, and I thought, do you know what? Around 4 o'clock, shall I have another one? So I had half because I couldn't finish I couldn't finish the whole coffee. So it honestly, it makes a massive difference. So
Yeah.
bloating and energy, that was my biggest win from taking
Yeah.
this.
And I think that whole combination, it works super well. And for anyone thinking, if you haven't done the intermittent fasting before, or if you're somebody who thinks, gosh, I don't think I could last that long, the fastest way I know to get anyone to be able to do it effortlessly without forcing yourself into it is we're back to this protein. Get more protein in the evening. Just remember, our days don't start. We think they start that morning. Our
You said
days
that
start the night before.
yesterday. And I remember it got into my head, and it's so interesting. You do start the day before, don't you?
Yeah.
Or with the meal
Whatever you,
before.
it is. So ask yourself, if you're really hungry in the morning, or you're, what did I eat last night? If I were to have a carb meal at night, I'll wake up hungry.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say carb meal, as opposed to having
The
protein,
meal.
vegetables, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yes.
So, and the way you're doing the protein shake, having that on the back of your evening
Yes.
meal, that will sustain you beautifully into the next day. You will not be hungry until
Yeah.
mid-morning,
Yeah.
midday. It just holds you.
So this leads me to another amazing product which you've got, and that's the Amino Slim powder.
The Amino Slim. I think that's the purified creatine you're showing us.
No. That's
Slim.
Amino.
Oh no, it's the Amino Slim. It is. Goodness, I'm blind as well as everything else.
It's the light.
Yep.
It's the light.
The Amino Slim, honestly, yes, that's again one of those products that is surprisingly helpful for both shape, but it's got a few other benefits to it as well. Now, most people are taking it for shape, but genuinely, as in, it's very good for helping, again, the fat around the
Yes.
middle in particular.
Yes.
Because again, and you've mentioned this already on this live, and I appreciate when people do mention this. This isn't just about weight loss.
No.
I mean, gosh,
No,
and
not at all.
I'm
No.
saying almost half flippantly, if you're just looking for weight loss, you can just stop eating, but it's a really stupid thing to do. This is about fat loss, particularly around the belly, and it's about firming up and toning up and getting stronger.
Yeah.
So it really is about rebalancing your body and getting it working the way it should, I believe, the way it should be working. The Amino Slim is a single amino acid. It's part of a protein. You get that amino acid in, I mean, an egg will have it in it. But when you take these amino acids away from each other, they all have a very slightly different impact on the body, quite frankly. And L-ornithine or Amino Slim supports, there's a natural hormonal process that occurs when you sleep and when you train. There's a natural release of hormones like growth hormone. They're the hormones that push the protein back into everything and firm you up. And insulin levels seem to reduce. So even weight training, it's found that insulin levels can actually go down. So that's happening while you're sleeping. It's happening when you're doing kind of intensive style training, weight training, regardless. And all the Amino Slim does is gets in behind it and seems to help it along. So you lose fat a bit faster, particularly if you get a measuring tape, and it's worth it if you're ever using it to actually just measure what the belly is and watch the difference, because that's where it drops. Now, weight will often drop alongside it, but it's particularly the fat around the belly it seems to target.
Because I said that to you before. The first conversation we had, I wore one pair of trousers, and then the next time, I think a few weeks later, I didn't even realize that I wore the same pair of pants, and I was like, actually, there's space in. It
It's a
shouldn't
gap.
even happen. So yeah, it does work. It really works. But there are also other benefits to it, isn't there?
Yes, there are. We have it included in Strong Nutrients. We have these stacks, as we call them, of products.
Yes.
So the idea is they work from slightly different angles on the same goal, if you
Yes.
like. So if you really want to wrap something, you can kind of hit it from all sides. So we have a sleep stack. And we've got two products which really make a difference for sleep. But on the Sleep Stack Plus, as we call it, we add in the Amino Slim because, interestingly, it is also very helpful for sleep. So what I used to love about this product is, oh my gosh, when I was in my early 20s, all the fat burning, in inverted commas, supplements, 30 years ago, they all had ephedrine in them, never mind caffeine. I mean, it's been banned since.
Really?
But in other words, there were all these real stimulants to get everything going. So you became incredibly hyper. I could never take them because you become so hyper with them. And now, thankfully, the ephedrine's gone out of those type of fat burners, as they like to call them. But they still keep in the caffeine and the stimulants that sort of make you a bit hyper. So if you're trying to avoid that, which if you're under stress, you're trying to avoid because your cortisols are already too high. If you already like your coffee, you don't necessarily need to add in extra. And so many women I come across are already having challenges with sleep. You don't want to add in these kind of fat burners to help them. The lovely thing about the Amino Slim, it does the opposite. If anything, it actually helps. It helps promote sleep. And actually, when they did research on the L-ornithine, which is the main ingredient in it, they found one of the most common things that came up in the study with the participants in the study was they felt less angry. They felt happier, which
I knew
I thought
something
was a
was
really
working
nice side effect.
That and chill pill, it's just perfect combo.
Exactly. What more could you want? I thought it was
Solves
brilliant.
all your problems.
Exactly.
No,
Exactly that.
it does work. It's amazing, and you just have to take. I take this as a powder, but you've got tablet option as
Yes.
well.
There's capsules and there's powder. Now, Amino Slim, for anyone thinking of taking it, is a fussy supplement. You take it before you go to bed or before you train, but for it to work, as I said there a moment ago, it works. You get this amino acid in with other foods. It doesn't do any of this when you get it in the other foods. When you take them away from each other, then they have that impact. So with Amino Slim, you need to fast for 2.5 hours before you take it. So if you go to bed, say at midnight, you'd stop eating at 9:30, as an example. Or you can take it before a training session, and it also works in the same way. You'd still fast beforehand. If you're doing the powder, it's half a teaspoon, which you can build up to a teaspoon if you wish, but I would start with half, just in water. If it's capsules, it's four capsules will work beautifully well. You can take more. Half a teaspoon is the equivalent of about 5 capsules. And as I said, you can build up from that, but sometimes people don't feel like taking loads of capsules. I think more important is the consistency of it.
I set up a reminder on my phone. So let's say half 10, I go to bed 11. So that's when 10:30 my reminder goes on. Because sometimes we're on the sofas, we fall asleep on the sofa watching Netflix. You know, and then it's gone. The time is gone. You go to bed, you forget about it. But when I've got a reminder, I do remember.
Really good idea, and it works in my experience as a cycle. So you're better off taking it consistently for however many weeks, or you can take it for 2-3 months. Some people take it much longer than that. If it's the goal is shape, well, you don't need to keep taking it. Obviously, when you go, you can just stop. But it works better as that than on off over extended periods. But I do have a lot of clients that because they train and they eat well and their overall goal is shape, strength, and so on and so forth. They will just take it on the days they train, and then it does help. It also helps because it's helping that natural hormonal process, if you like. It does seem to also help the muscle side of things too. So it's not just the fat loss.
Really?
It does help with the firming up, and that's never harm. I find if I take it before I train, that I feel stronger for the training. Not like an energy drink stronger, not where I get the sunburst, but I'm actually just pushing a bit more. I'm lifting, I'm able to do a bit more. It feels more subtle, but you're like, hang on, I wasn't able to do that last time.
You would
kind of feeling.
do it on the night and then start the day with training in the morning?
No, you can take it so you can do it at night, and you can take it as well or instead.
All right.
So you can do either or. You take about 20 minutes before you go for your training.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, I didn't know that. There you go. You learned something new.
You do. Works super well for that. Super well.
Remember that. Thank you. I think I am quite conscious that we can talk for hours, can't we?
Yes, I think we're coming nicely to time, aren't we? No, we definitely can.
We can. And it's always a pleasure talking to you, and it's so knowledgeable. I can listen to what you've got to say for hours. So thank you so much for that. Maybe we should do another one soon on another product. But I just wanted to mention I do have I think 15% off code. So if you're thinking about buying any of the products, then it's there for you. I'll save it and put it on the on the caption. But thank you so much, Zana. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Let's fingers crossed I can save it now.
Well, good luck. I leave that one to you. I'm okay on this side of the fence from the nutrition and training, but everything else, Strong Nutrients have brought it up, and they've told you it's 12% off Marlenka 12. Lovely. Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have
you.
a lovely Wednesday.
Very much.
See you later. Thank you for everyone joining. Bye.
Bye-bye.